About 10 months ago, right after I got my resin printer, I printed out that car that you see there. It's a resin print from a file obtained for free from Thingiverse, and it's designed by a guy named Randy S. It's the Chryslus Cherry Bomb, Rocket 69. The design is from Fallout 4, and according to the Fallout Wiki, the Chryslus Cherry Bomb was a sports car produced by Chryslus Motors prior to the Great War. The Cherry Bomb is a single-seat vehicle that was designed to break the sound barrier. Although promoted in cherry red paint, it was also available with light blue, mint green, yellow, and black paints, each with a joystick for steering and onboard screen. The Cherry Bomb was added to Forza Motorsport 6 as part of a crossover promotion. This printout has been sitting on my desk, just waiting to work its way to the top, which finally happened. I didn't print it in red. You'll see what I did with it. I had to rummage around to find some screws to hold the base on because 256 screws are way too small. I think these are taken off of, a green-light casting scrap. I thought I was going to use regular Hot Wheels wheels on it, but they just didn't cut it. You see there. So what I ended up doing is I ended up putting some monoblock wheels on it. I had some of those around. I think I have 3 or 4 sets around. And where the Hot Wheels designs didn't cut it, yeah, that looks a lot better. So I went with the monoblock wheels. I love monoblock wheels. I kick myself for not using them more often. They're excellent wheels. They're really well made. Anyhow, back to the build. I did vacuum form the canopy. The little piece you see there, the solid colored one, the gray one, is the printout from the resin printer. I don't have clear resin. So what I did is I just used that as the mold in the vacuum form and just vacuum formed the clear to it. It resulted, the way I did it, it's a more shallow canopy, which gives it a more streamlined look, and I'm happier with it than if I had printed that original in clear resin. And so there you see how the clear canopy I made fits on there. And I actually do cut it down a little bit more to get it to fit a little bit better. But this is a sleek looking car. So after I hit it with primer once, I saw that you see me fill in a little hole there. And there's layer lines on this. Even though it's resin printed, there are some layer lines that I tried to get out, and this really is the first larger resin printed casting. Well, casting's the wrong word, I guess. But the first larger resin print I've worked with. I did do the little tiny mopeda scooter kind of thing earlier this year, but this was a learning experience. Well, all of these builds are learning experiences. That's part of the fun of it. Is trying things that are different and interesting. And there you see I painted it in flat black. That's a Model Master enamel that you see there. And I made a comment recently that I see the Batmobile in a lot of different cars. This being one of them. This isn't a Batmobile per se, but I definitely head off down that path. Now here, installing the monoblock wheels was a little tougher because that's molded in, that axle tube is molded into that base of the casting, into the chassis. So I was able to crimp one end, as you see there with the fencing pliers. Monoblock gives you those axles. They're fantastic. They squish really nicely. They squish great in the fence pliers. And what I used on the other end, since I couldn't squish the other end with the fencing pliers because of the narrow spacing, I just end up putting a little CA glue on the ends of the axles, as you see here. And that worked perfectly fine. Part of the problem with dealing with the resin casting, or the resin mold, or whatever you want to call it, the resin print, there's some exceptionally thin areas on it, exceptionally brittle areas on it. So you have to be very careful when you're working on things. You're always in this fear of breaking off a fin, or this thing has this really tiny little joystick in there that, if it had been broken off, would have been really tough to get back in there. Now there you see the chassis. I just threw the canopy on it. That looks pretty damn good. I mean, those monoblock wheels on that base look sharp. But then it came time to detail this, and yeah, the red comes out, as you see there. That's Army Painter paint. And like I said, I see the Batmobile in a lot of cars. So it's interesting. There's these areas at the front and the back, kind of like intake and exhaust tubes, that you see how I painted into those with the red, and the red fins, obviously. But it was kind of tough getting the paint in there. And then when you do other areas with the lead belcher, again, you're trying to be really careful with it. You're using the silver because then you don't want to get it onto the red. Because this has the clear canopy, it made it interesting to detail the inside of it. So I obviously used the lead belcher to paint the seat, to paint that display area, and I also painted the little joystick that's in there as well. I don't know if the microphone's picking this up in the background, but there's an ice cream truck going by the house right now as I'm recording this. So I apologize if it's picking that up. And if you hear me just laughing for no apparent reason, now you know why. I did use gauzy on that canopy to beef it up a little bit, and this was exceptionally tough to do. You'll see me move it and wick it 100 times because there's no flat area to grab onto with this. So I kept wicking it off, and I have it on a little piece of tape support in there. It's kind of tough to see, but I also had to be careful and keep moving it so that it wouldn't build up against that support. Once I had enough of it wicked off, then I could just put the cover on it and move on. But yeah, that's probably the toughest canopy I've ever done with gauzy. So I did go over it with the Minwax gloss clear polyurethane. It turned out, I was pretty happy with how it turned out, considering that, again, it's a resin print. Looking back on it, I probably could have sanded that more, but again, it had some such fragile areas, I had to be cautious. I did bust out the Tamiya clear red to do the tail lights, just as an added finishing touch. That ice cream truck is still out there. I'm sorry. I should just re-record this, but it's almost too funny. At this point, I'm going to go ahead and put it together, put the base on, even though I don't have the canopy on it yet. And again, this fits together very easily. What you notice in working on this, as opposed to, say, a Hot Wheels casting, is how amazingly light this is. There is no weight to this at all. You know, probably the wheels are just as heavy as the casting, or the mold here, the print itself. So you pick it up and it has just no heft to it at all. This obviously wouldn't be used in the Hot Wheels racing circuit. You'd have to put some weight inside of this to get this thing down the track. After putting these screws in, I did touch them up a little bit with black paint. You'll notice I did not clear coat the base. The base, even though I sanded it down, as you may have noticed at the very start of the video, it still remained pretty rough. There was no pattern on it of anything, no drive area, no mechanicals of any kind. So other than just sanding it down a little bit to get it a little flatter, a little cleaner, there's nothing down there. So there was no reason to gloss clear it either. So there you see the gray canopy from the original printout. And up at the top, you see the clear canopy sitting on that tin. I used micro crystal clear to hold it down. It's the ideal thing for this situation. You've seen me use it numerous times before. It dries clear. Modelers use this to hold canopies on airplanes and all kinds of things, to make windows in some situations, as again you've seen me do. The toughest part of putting the canopy on, again, is there's nothing to grab. So you have to be very careful. And because of the plastic I used for that canopy, it's also very staticky, very clingy. It attracts dust very easily. So once that's on and dried, there you have it. The Chryslus Cherry Bomb, Rocket 69. Again, this was designed by Randy S. on Thingiverse. It's a free file. I hope you like the paint scheme I used on this. I'm sure you see the Batmobile influences here. But again, this isn't a Batmobile. It just kind of sort of looks like one. There's some glamour shots coming up. Thank you again for watching these videos. I hope you've enjoyed this. If you do, please subscribe to the channel if you haven't already subscribed. Give this a like if you've enjoyed this video, and share it with your friends. Check out some of my other videos. This was a kick to do. It makes me want to print more resin prints to do. So everybody stay safe and healthy out there. Special thanks to my Patreon members for their support. And I'll catch you in the next one. Oh, there's a quick little look at the joystick in there. See ya.